Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video here on the new Byte. My name is Tess. This is the last part of the Office PC turned home server. I want to be done with the series because there's a few projects that I also want to do in this month and we're running out of month. So this is the last part where we talk about benchmarks, how we'll end up using the PC for now and what's also in the future coming maybe to this build. So let's sit down and let's finish off Office PC turned home server. When I started this whole series, I began a journey and learned a lot. I wanted to both learn something about home server appliances, how to set them up with VMs, how the technology can work, and how really powerful does a home server need to be for at least some basic uses. And I learned a lot. And with the additional case that I also wanted to use this PC that I built as a dual boot between Windows and Proxmox, I learned also a lot about how to set it all up. And really that it's kind of crappy. There's a lot of things that are very tricky with the way how Proxmox uses drives and everything, and how Windows also wants to stay atop of everything else. So let's start with the first step of dual booting and then talk about benchmarks. There's a very interesting thing about dual booting PC with Windows and actually Debian, a Linux distribution on which I can install Proxmox, is that again you need firstly everything on one drive, and SSDs can't go as high as HDDs with the partitions. So since I need a lot of partitions for both Windows and the Linux system, I can only install everything, at least as far as I tried, on the HDD, which is of course slower and a little bit louder regarding of course when it's being used. When I'm using Windows right now, I can hear the HD quite loud compared to when I was having everything on the SSD. And of course, in regards, for example, using Proxmox and an HD instead of an SSD is one, the download or upload times, for example, of ISO files towards the Proxmox server to use them for installation purposes on a VM is drastically lowered. Although not as much as I would say it's not worth it. It is absolutely worth it having both run on one box. It's just noticeably slower. The big advantage of course is though that you can have a lot of space in it, and if you want to run a VM on an SSD you can still do that. And for the Windows configuration you can still use an SSD to run games on it. It took me a few attempts to get it all to work at all. It doesn't work using the Proxmox installer. You need to install Debian first and through that then install Proxmox, or else you will lose the complete drive. So there's ways around that to make it work, but it's a little bit tricky, and I wouldn't really spend too much time on it elsewise. If you want to do it yourself, check out the description. There's everything I used as sources for my attempt to make it work. And it did. So that's good. Was it all worth it? In the end, I would say yes. Again, I learned a lot, as we heard from the first part. And now in the second part, talking about benchmarks, I gotta say, this old PC, using my old AMD Radeon 7970 HD graphics card and the Office PC provided Intel i5-3470 CPU, is quite a good combination. I'm running actually a very lengthy cable of HDMI through my living room here to get it to the TV directly, and it's working very fine actually. I can run some older games on there. I can stream them from my main PC over to this smaller PC via Steam in-home sharing, making it basically a very powerful Steam Link. And that's good because the Steam Link that I used prior actually failed me a lot. So this PC already proves a lot better in just using it as a Steam Link. I would maybe update in the future PC with a better graphics card. For example, the benchmarks for the AMD 5600 XT came just out today, and with around $300 of price, it's quite good for what it also will deliver in performance. And compared, of course, to my HD 7970, it will be much better. So at least, some mid-range games, from maybe 3 years ago will still run on this rather low-end PC, but directly of course connected to my TV, where I can enjoy them in a very big fashion, but also still with low latency times compared to the Steam Link fashion, where there is some latency between the host PC, the big one, which I added this movie also on, and of course this new Office and home server PC. Destiny 2 actually ran on this PC, though I can't really show you the numbers. If I try to record on the same system with OBS, it is very bad, and just trust me, in general, the game didn't run that well, even in 1080p with low settings. I averaged around 30 to 40 FPS, and it was still sometimes having hiccups, so I'm guessing the GPU is also a bit, just done for, but it still works at least fine for the in-home streaming appliances. Then of course Half-Life, which had some issues with loading times, which I didn't expect. Between some zones, the loading area were just taking a lot of time to let me continue. And in Crysis, it actually worked sort of well. I had used the automatic settings just given to me by Crysis. I should lower it even lower actually than the one that Crysis set up, and I should be kind of fine to play this old title. So to answer it, yes, it does run Crysis. Again, I would probably update the GPU still in the end, because besides the performance that it has, it is also very loud. This is a very loud GPU. I could buy a good mid-range, AMD Radeon, for example, 5600 XT, which hopefully is a little bit less power hungry and also a little bit quieter because it has better modern, coolers on it. This graphics card is really old. And if you want some numbers to that, here are the current performance numbers of Time Spy, Firestrike, and that gaming laptop benchmark that you can get in 3D Mark. But even if you just compare Scene and Bench next to each other, you really notice that the i5 3470 is also kind of old. Just 4 cores, no extra threads, just 4 cores, 4 threads, compared to an AMD 2700X with 8 cores and 16 threads. Yeah, at least in that benchmark it really falls behind. In the end, what's the future of this office PC turned home server? Well, again, I want to do a few more videos in the future. Not in the very near future, but in the future at least, about how to run more servers in your homework, how to run old gaming servers on your own machine using this dedicated setup. And also I want to maybe improve it a little bit, for some retro gaming. There's one really cool use case that I have with this PC in the living room, and that is that I have all my consoles in here where I can play, with 4K HDR and everything. But I would really love to have actually, a device here where I can record, so I don't need to get the console over in my office and record there on that PC. I now have a very cheap PC here that still does it. It is actually recommended to have an i5 of the 4th generation of Intel CPUs by Elgato, but this 3470 actually still does the job to record both in OBS using the Elgato HD60 that I have here, or just directly in game capture. So at least for 1080p recordings, it's actually doing quite well. And who knows, maybe in the future I have this very nice standalone box where I can also transfer over some content at least on this PC, or just put it over to my office PC. But nonetheless, there is at least right now a very good recording station, at least here, with enough space to have some hours just running, and I'm just gaming here, and I don't need to worry about having any other system hooked up or needing to hook up any new system, so just that I can record some retro gaming footage, or maybe modern console gaming footage, just like Death Stranding, for example. Nonetheless, maybe an upgrade to the GPU again would be nice, because if I do some retro gaming on PC here, the GPU that is in there right now is quite loud, so a little improvement with a minor investment in the future would be still nice. And in regards to what I've learned looking back at the beginning of the video, when I said I wanted to learn about Proxmox and home servers and everything and virtualization, I can clearly say I learned a lot, and I appreciate that I took this attempt first with a very cheap machine that I equipped with some smaller things, and then continuously upgraded over the course of the last few weeks. Because right now I feel like I'm confident, if I want to do it properly next time, actually, configure my own home server by myself with the proper parts, of course, using a good CPU of the modern time, of course, with ECC memory, and of course dual SSDs for RAID configurations, of course, for redundancy and safety, of course, and what else I want to do with it. And of course there are a lot of things that I can try out at least right now, but in the future I'm at least prepped to know what I will do next. So even if I would break this old thing, I wouldn't feel sorry about it. Good thing everything still works, and I have a lot of good use cases, both for using it as a Windows PC as is, or using it via Proxmox as a virtualization engine for my home network. And that is for now the end of the Office PC turned home server series. I hope you liked watching it, hope you learned something on the way. I have a few things that I want to do in the future. For example, running my own dedicated CSGO server here in a VM, which has proven already to be a bit tricky, as I already had an attempt with it, but didn't work out quite well. And then there's also another thing that I want to do, and that is running Battlefield 3 for Battlefield Hardline servers on this machine. Because, you know, these games are really cool and they're dying out a little bit, and I think if I can make it work on this PC here, and I can bring it to some LAN parties maybe in the future, I think that would be just the thing that I'd need for some excellent, well, not really retro gaming experiences, but at least, you know, for the time of the FPS genres, really classical experiences. So expect more videos for that in the future. For now, we'll take a break from the whole project and do something else next. Hope you're with me, subscribe if you're not yet, and of course, my name is apt-get for the new Byte. Thanks for watching, and I'll always see you soon. Bye bye!